If you take every contradiction in the Bible and you stack them all up and you throw them at me, wah! Compared to how wrong the doctors and scientists and politicians were in the last 3 years, it'd still be like 0.1%. And I don't care what political party you're in or what kind of science you subscribe to, but they were just making stuff up, guys. But regardless of all that, I will be building my foundation, my house, upon the rock. What's that mean? That means not theology. It doesn't mean that I'm going to memorize every word of the Bible and have a Bible study. The foundation, that I should be laying things on, the way that I was raised, the way that my focus has been, is on the rock of knowing God directly and knowing what love is. You have times where you're tested in your life. People die. You might lose your job. Your income goes to zero and you're homeless. Whatever it is that happens. The floods come. Everything that doesn't fit your life purpose gets obliterated when this happens. If your foundation is in the right spot, built upon the rock, if your life is built on the opinions of scientists, your life is built on whatever was taught in school, what the American dream is, if your life is built on any of that kind of stuff, if your foundation is religion, you're in trouble too. Because when the reality of the world, the direct experience of your life, when the floods come and the wind blows and it beats upon that which you think is important, you will discover that everything outside of your foundation is completely blown away. This is true whether or not you're Christian or not. It actually is. This is universal truth. And we'll get into Jesus as Savior. But Jesus as a teacher is trying to tell you that if your foundation sucks, why you do what you do, what it is that you're doing in your life, the goals that you have, the aspirations you have, are empty without any real purpose. If your foundation sucks and it's not built on love, when the storm comes, you will be blown away. This is true about me. When I was working at Walmart, how great of a foundation was that? That's a terrible foundation. You should never put your faith into Walmart, guys. Please. And I was working my way up fast because I know that I can be good. I can make a lot of money really fast. In the sense of, I have a salesperson mentality. I have a manager mentality. I can do a lot of things. But when the winds came and the storms blew, which wasn't much of a storm in my opinion, but people made it out to be, the COVID stuff and everything, Walmart folded immediately. Immediately. And no matter how high I climbed up that Walmart ladder, I would have to leave that company over that. And it turned out that because my foundation, Walmart, sucked bad, that I know that it's a complete waste of time for me to go back to Walmart and work my way back up. It's absolutely a waste. The foundation of having a career in Walmart is a good example of that. When the winds come and the things blow, life happens, guys. You're going to know right away if you're in the right career. You're going to know right away. If I had been doing this ministry 3 years ago, it wouldn't have made a bit of difference, would it? Don't make that your purpose, because Jesus says you're in trouble. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're Christian. It didn't really matter, honestly, during the COVID thing, whether you're a Christian or not. What really mattered is where your foundation was. Where your foundation was when the storm hit. See? A lot of crazy people doing crazy things. And their beliefs, their real beliefs, really reared their ugly head. Luke chapter 6, verses 47. Why would you call me Lord if you do not do the things I say? How many people do you know? Lord, Lord, Lord. But they're not following the direct teachings of Christ. I'm going to go on to each category of our lives. On these categories, when the crisis hits, where is your faith? You have a money issue. You're running out of money. Saving for retirement. Where is your faith? How many people you know out there who are saving and saving? They got their stock portfolio, guys. They're preparing for their retirement. They're being good stewards. Was Jesus preparing for his retirement in his life? That's a good question, isn't it? How many coins was just Jesus burying in his backyard, guys? Was Jesus saving for retirement? That's a good question. Right? What would Jesus do when it comes to retirement? And Jesus has words. He says, store your treasures up in heaven. So if you're preparing for retirement and you're building up all those stock portfolios and you got your stocks and bonds and you got your 10 houses and you're ready to go, don't be surprised if all of that fizzles out. Don't be surprised if that's your foundation. Now, if you're building this stuff and your foundation is in Christ or your foundation is in love, ultimately love. There's many billionaires that fall under this category that their whole goal with amassing riches was to give it all away in the first, I believe it was Carnegie. I could be right. Carnegie. He said that his whole goal was to make as much money as possible in the first half of his life so he could give it all away in the second half of his life. Purely out of love. And guess what? God blessed David Carnegie. And Carnegie did do what he said. He went out and did what he did because his foundation was right. It wasn't just about making money. Where is your faith in a time of crisis? Do you put your faith in atheist worldviews or God? If you're really worried about your worldly retirement, you're not really following the direct teachings of Christ. If you're super worried about it. Now, if you're preparing a little bit, okay. But if you're super worried about your worldly retirement, what are you going to do when I'm 75? What if I outlive my money? You're not doing what Jesus said. First of all, you didn't sell everything you had and give it to the poor, right? You didn't do that. You retired and you're living off their money. And then the next thing is that Jesus says that he'll take care of you. Like he takes care of the lilies, like he takes care of the birds. And the lilies don't toil, guys. You can retire like yesterday. You don't have to wait till you're 75. Retire your worldly career and exchange it for a foundation and a godly career. If you're working a job you don't agree with, let's say that you're in a pork grind factory. Anybody here work in a pork grind factory? If you work in a pork grind factory and you don't believe in that, quit your job. There are many different places that you can go work. Make sure that wherever you're working, whatever you're doing for a living, is aligned with what you think matters, your foundation. It is very difficult to serve God and money. You're either going to love one or despise the other. But it turns out that if you just do God's work and you focus on the kingdom of heaven, regardless of your retirement, God got you. You're going to be okay. You don't need insurance. Jesus pays your debts. It's not just your sins. I got a lot of credit card debt. I got student loan debt, guys. I'm living way beyond my means with a family of 6. I'm still tripling down on the ministry because I believe one way or another, guys, God will provide. God is providing. God has done miracles in my life. When things go wrong, your health deteriorates. Where do you put your faith? Do you put your faith in your doctor? Do you put your faith in the opinions of experts? When you're diagnosed with whatever disease that you're diagnosed with, I don't care what it is, whether it be diabetes, depression, schizophrenia. And let you know that my mother, she had a long list of stuff she was diagnosed with. She had a long list of physical ailments. My mom was diagnosed with 10 different things that could have killed her. But none of those things killed her. She survived all of them. What actually ended up doing her in was completely unrelated to all of the things that she was diagnosed with. So a lot of doctors want to curse you with all of these diagnoses and tell you that you got 24 hours until you die. You got 2 days to live. I estimate your life expectancy is a week. That's not the doctor's call. Your doctor is not the Grim Reaper. So if they tell you that you got 24 hours to live, don't believe that. Don't let that be your God. Don't let the doctor be your God. Some doctors are good and they really do lean on the foundation of Christ. But the vast majority of them are not like that. If you put your faith in the atheist perspective of healthcare, it is a disaster. If you put your faith in your disease, that's an atheist worldview. If you put your faith in, I ain't going anywhere until I've done the work that God has called me to do, that's the faith you should have. Don't have faith in whatever that illness is. If you tend to look it up on your phone or you're on the internet and you're constantly looking into the ins and outs of a disease, that will make you sicker. Instead, look to the ins and outs of the direct teachings of Christ. Look to how he healed people. How often when Jesus prayed to people was he like, all right, guys, we're all going to focus on that terminal illness. I want everybody to pray about that terminal illness, and then everybody was over there and they were praying and they were focusing in on the illness. No, that did not happen. Jesus just said, I forgive you, get up and walk. He put almost no emphasis on the illness and almost entire emphasis on love. When Jesus healed people, he put almost no emphasis on the illness and he put 100% emphasis on the love. Do it like that. The more that you focus on the illness, the more that you are buying in to the atheist worldview. And we all have crises. We might faint, guys. We might have things happen. But you've got to keep your faith and your eyes in the right spot. Because if your eyes are on Christ, your eyes are on the love of God, you will walk on water. Don't let any disease of any kind or terminal illness, don't let that be your religion. Don't let the atheist perspective of your healthcare run your life. I don't care whether you're atheist or not. It absolutely helps you none. Zero. Most people who go to the doctor over and over again and do like 10-hour studies on their disease all night long get worse. Get worse. The science says that to be the case. Don't do that. That's the worst thing you could do. God doesn't exist, atheists say. Why? Because somebody else told me that God doesn't exist. It's exactly the same as saying that God exists because somebody told me it exists. Don't not believe in God because somebody told you not to believe in God. And don't believe in God just because someone told you to believe in God. Directly experience God. The same is true about science. Direct experience. Now you can read on Wikipedia about all the scientific experiments that they've done. I have been to college for long periods of time. And I've got to tell you that the science that you find in college is very, very skewed. They will not publish an article that doesn't go along with the paradigm. Even if somebody has the evidence. If somebody has the cure for cancer and they try to publish it, it will get blocked because of politics. It's insane. You guys need to know this, that science as we know it in this world suppresses technology and knowledge. Because there's a business around, I'm going to go back to healthcare for just a second. There's a business around selling drugs. There's a business around selling chemotherapy. There's a business around selling ADHD medication. And if somebody cures cancer, then all of a sudden what happens? They lose money. They lose all kinds of money. This money that's flowing in from the government. You guys need to know this. That science is biased when it comes to what's published and what's not published. And they do skew the data. They cherry pick the data. I'm telling you this as a fact. You guys need to know this if you guys are science believers. Regardless of what we're talking about, whether we're talking about medicine, physics, they suppressed battery technology for the longest of time. Oil companies did that. You guys need to know that if you put your faith in science, it's no different than putting your faith into some other religion that doesn't provide you direct experience with God. They want you to believe certain things, so you buy their products. I'm just telling you flat out, and I'm talking even education, all the way down the line. I was in college for a long time. I read a lot of articles. I saw many articles where they said, this proves that this is the case. And when you read the fine print, they're like, this has an effect size of 10%. Have you guys seen those drug commercials, guys? Where they list all the things that will happen if you take the drug, but it might cure your headaches. If you actually look at the data on those drugs, you'll actually see in the stats that it has a 20% chance of making your headache feel a little bit better. And then it's got a long list of things that it does for you to screw up your life. That's why you don't need to put your faith in science as your primary method for understanding. Not talking about science as a method. I'm talking about science as a religion. Science as a religion is blindly taking the advice of experts without looking at the evidence. That is the atheist religion. There's real science, and then there's the kind of science where this is the official truth. It's like Soviet Union science. Soviet Union science, Russian science, The kind of science where this is what the experts say. Look to your direct experience, specifically your direct experience with the divine. But if you can't do that, use the scientific method yourself and discover if what they're saying is nonsense. This would have went a long way during that COVID pandemic if more people did that. We wouldn't have had the reaction that we had, whether to the extent that people want to lean a lot on it or not. Because people were buying into experts as a religion instead of looking at their data. Rant Jamz looked at their data. You know why? Because he did that. He took 10 stats courses in college. I was like, here, show me the proof. Let's see it. I'm really interested. I want to see the data. Let's look at it. And that's the reason why science isn't my religion. It's because I use the scientific method and I look at the direct evidence for whatever it is. So when it comes to science, I'm letting you know that it's political, guys. If the paradigm does not match, if somebody proves 100% that God is real scientifically, if somebody's got a telescope out there and they see an interdimensional rift and God's face is right there going, hey, what's up? And tries to publish that article, it will get destroyed in peer review. Even if everybody else can look in the same spot and see God directly, that information will be suppressed. Why? Because it goes against all the products that they're trying to sell us. It's politics. It's politics, guys. Regardless of whether you're atheist or not, you cannot let the atheist religion run your world. I've read a lot of articles that were published that should have never been published, but they were only published because they agreed with the standing view. I've seen a lot of articles that were denied publishing. Why? Because they disagreed with the standing view, and they had a lot of evidence. Lots of evidence. So don't let that be your religion. When there's a crisis, this is the most important part. Why is this an issue? A crisis hits, guys. Experts come out, they're crawling out of the sewers. Believe me, believe me, believe me. The experts are coming out, telling you what to believe. When we have a crisis, whether it be a healthcare crisis, guys, education crisis, a war, whatever it is, it's very important for you to know that there's politics behind their science. There always is. And please be a scientist yourself and investigate. Investigate that. But when the rains come and you're threatened with the world's going to end, politicians are coming out there, experts are saying do this or that because the experts said so. That's no different than the Catholic Church back in the day who are taking people on crusades. Because you're not looking at the evidence. You're just looking at, do it, why? Because I'm ordered to. No. Please be at least as doubtful. If you don't believe in God, please be as skeptical to the experts as you are skeptical of God. Please. Please. If you can doubt them as much as you can doubt God, you will find God. If you doubt the experts as much as you doubt God as an atheist, you will find God. It's 100%. What I'm saying, I know, I'm excited about it. It's 100% the case. Because direct experience is the best path. Directly seek the truth. And don't let the atheist religion, not atheist as an idea, there's a difference. I totally love people who are atheists. I'm okay with that. But the atheist worldview religion is not reasonable. It's just listen to the experts and don't investigate yourself. That is a terrible religion. You're better off being a Scientologist. The atheist worldview is terrible. Why do I not believe in God? Because Stephen Hawking said this. Did you look in what Stephen Hawking had to say? Have you read his research? Why do we even bother having mass education? Let's just say that you're an atheist worldview. Why do we have kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade and then college and then all of that just for you to go, well, I'm not going to investigate it. Everybody here supposedly educated, vast majority, 99% or 90% of people graduate high school. Why do we go through all of that just to listen to what the experts say without doubting the information? The reason why we're educated, as Thomas Jefferson put it, I don't have it quoted, but as Thomas Jefferson was saying, is that you can't have a democracy or a republic without an educated population. To doubt the experts. It's the most anti-American thing ever to just do what the experts say without looking into their information. And these people were Christians. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, these guys were Christians. They may not have been perfect. They might have owned slaves. They might have done some really terrible things. But they doubted the nonsense from the experts. And somehow they knew that God was real. That's something to think about. So whenever I'm in trouble, what I do is I go back to my foundation. I go back to my foundation, and all the nonsense that's not my foundation crumbles away, guys. Who's the greatest insurance? Don't worry about life insurance, guys. Better off to know God directly. Your career, how does your career align with the career that your purpose? Your what you're doing for a living, how does that align with your purpose? To work just for money is not enough. While you're at work, you should definitely be focusing on your first job, which is why you were born. Science, we talked about science. The extent that science is a religion is very much so. Most people do not look into the data. Most people don't look into the evidence at all. And a lot of peer-reviewed articles get struck down simply because they don't fit the paradigm, the prevailing paradigm. We talked about that. And how ridiculous, how political it actually gets with science. It's crazy. And we talked about experts. Guys, do you give your authority to experts? How much so? Or do you give your authority to the real expert, the one that created everything?